common law, which is a non-statutory situation, it's 7. Traditional age is 7, but most states now have moved to 10. And the reason for the difference between the two is that it's a very hard thing to generalise on. You know, sometimes with some children, they seem to be more aware, more able to understand right from wrong. With other children, no. So it's a very arbitrary division, whether it's 10 or 7. The move to 10, I think, has been to recognise that children take more time, take a longer time to understand legal responsibility when doing things that we would otherwise consider to be criminal. But yeah, there has been a lot of debate about the movement in the age and whether in fact that arbitrary limit should apply to all children depending on what they do. Well, there's no penalty to the child criminally because he can't be prosecuted. In terms of damages, it really depends on the value of the animals and also if the courts give what's called exemplary damages. Now, exemplary damages are where you also want to make an example of what the child has done, and so to some extent you use damages as a statement that what he's done is wrong. The difficulty is if you punish the parents, then what impact does that have on the child anyway? It may have none. And also the parents may have been careful with this child. He just could well be a difficult child or a very independent or a very cunning child, I don't know. But I suppose with damages the question is who has the money to pay? Yeah. And obviously it's not the child, so the first group you'd go to would be the parent. Well, there's a question about that too, because, for example, if the boy got into the zoo and then was hurt, say something happened to the boy and the boy was injured, there could be a question about whether the zoo was liable simply not for keeping the zoo secured. Also, there's a question about whether, in fact, the zoo itself has a responsibility to keep those animals safe. It would be unfair to say that the zoo has all the responsibility, but in tort law, responsibility is shared. So there might be some percentage of responsibility to the zoo, some percentage of responsibility to the parents, and so it could be a shared responsibility. Well, you make the zoo a more secure place because you've got to build higher walls. I don't know. I don't think punishment, even if you punish the boy, it would make much of a difference because children of that age don't make rational decisions about whether they're going to do something good or bad. And they also don't sit back and read the newspaper and decide, well, the punishment for that was very great, therefore we won't do that. I mean, that notion is deterrence, and deterrence really is a very problematic notion. I think what would be more important is the discussion, the general discussion about what happened, and maybe the education that one could give to children, particularly those children who have an aggressive nature, that this sort of treatment of animals is something which is to be avoided. There was some discussion after this happened about the fact that children who show aggressive tendencies should be, if you like, given some treatment, that they should be approached by a psychologist, and there should be some discussion about why would a little boy want to destroy animals in this way. So maybe better than using the criminal law as a force for change, we think about trying to educate children and to discuss the importance of keeping animals like this safe. Now, should we reduce that barrier down further so we can reach 5-year-olds? No, I don't agree with that. I think what we have here is a question about whether, in fact, children who act violently and act in a way like this, what do we do beyond the criminal law to try and regulate their behaviour? And I think, sad as the case is, it has stimulated some useful discussion about what we do with children who exhibit violent behaviour.